The set of the Kelly Clarkson show glimmered under the bright studio lights, the stage designed to feel both homely and grand. A pastel backdrop framed the singer-turned-host, who sat perched on her cushioned chair with her signature warm smile. The crowd buzzed with excitement, clapping in rhythm to the upbeat intro music. "Y'all, I am so excited about today's guest," Kelly announced, her southern twang bubbling with enthusiasm. "He is one of the funniest people on the planet, and if you've ever seen one of his specials, you know exactly what I mean. Please welcome the incredibly talented Jeff Dunham." The audience erupted into applause as Jeff strode onto the stage, carrying a case that fans instantly recognized. With his easy grin and relaxed stride, he gave Kelly a friendly hug before sitting down. "You brought friends," Kelly teased, pointing at the case. "Oh, you know I never travel alone," Jeff quipped, pulling out Peanut first. The purple, hyperactive puppet immediately sprang to life, bouncing in Jeff's hand with manic energy. "Hey, Kelly, you're prettier in person," Peanut squealed, earning a roar of laughter from the audience. Kelly chuckled, playing along. "Well, thank you, Peanut. You're quite the charmer." Walter came out next, his eternal scowl already setting the stage. "Great, another daytime show. Just what I needed," he grumbled, which sent another wave of laughter rolling through the crowd. The first segment was golden. Jokes flew rapid fire, and Kelly leaned in, laughing with her trademark snort, clapping her hands whenever Peanut delivered a punchline. Jeff seemed at ease, balancing the characters flawlessly, even managing to make Walter argue with Kelly as if he were a real guest. But then came the transition that shifted the energy of the room. Kelly, always thoughtful with her questions, tilted her head and said gently, "So, Jeff, you've been doing this for, what, over 3 decades now? You've made millions laugh, and your characters are iconic. But I wanted to ask you something, do you ever feel like comedy has changed in recent years? Like, maybe some jokes that landed 10 years ago don't land the same way today?" The laughter in the room softened. The audience leaned forward, sensing a turn in tone. Jeff's smile stiffened slightly, though he kept Peanut bouncing as a shield. "Changed," Peanut said, rolling his felt eyes. "Everything changes, Kelly, except Walter. He's been cranky since the 70s. The audience chuckled, but Kelly pressed, her voice kind but steady. "What I mean is, people are more vocal now about what offends them. Do you feel any responsibility, as one of the biggest names in comedy, to adapt to that?" Jeff's brow furrowed as Walter cut in, grumbling, "Oh, here we go. The offended talk. Can't even make a fart joke without someone writing a think piece." The crowd laughed nervously, half unsure if this was still part of the act. Kelly smiled, trying to keep it light, but her tone had an undercurrent of seriousness. "But isn't there a difference between harmless fun and, you know, jokes that might punch down? Like, do you ever stop and think, maybe some people don't feel included in the laughter?" Jeff shifted in his seat, setting Peanut aside. His voice lost some of its stage polish. "Comedy has always been about pushing limits, Kelly. That's the job. If comedians start tiptoeing around every possible feeling, then we're not comedians anymore, we're babysitters." A few people in the audience clapped, but the energy wavered. Kelly's smile faltered, though she quickly recovered. She leaned in, her voice firmer now. "But you're also a role model, Jeff. People look up to you. Isn't there a responsibility to consider what message the humor is sending?" Jeff's tone sharpened. "My responsibility is to make people laugh. That's it. I'm not out here trying to deliver public service announcements. People come to my shows because they want to laugh at stuff they can't laugh at anywhere else. That's the whole point." Kelly raised her eyebrows, her voice calm but edged with tension. "But sometimes what makes one person laugh might hurt another. Doesn't that matter?" Walter chimed in again, "Everybody's too sensitive these days. If you don't like the joke, don't listen. Simple." The crowd laughed loudly at Walter, but the laughter sounded different, uneasy, like an attempt to fill the space. Kelly glanced at the audience, then back at Jeff. She wasn't about to let the subject drop. "I get that laughter is supposed to be freeing," she said. "But it also has power. And power can either build people up or tear them down. Don't you think it's worth reflecting on that?" Jeff set Walter down next to Peanut, no longer hiding behind the puppets. His voice grew colder. "Kelly, I've been doing this a long time. My fans know I don't mean harm. If people want to twist it into something ugly, that's their problem. Not mine." The audience murmured. Some clapped, some exchanged glances. The warmth that had defined the first half of the interview had drained from the air. Kelly crossed her legs, her hand nervously brushing at her dress, but her tone was steady. I'm not saying you're out to hurt people, Jeff. But what if someone's telling you, hey, that hurts me? Isn't it worth at least hearing them out? Jeff laughed, but it was short and bitter. If we stopped every time someone said they were hurt, we'd stop comedy altogether. And I'm not about to do that. The tension broke like a snapped string. Kelly, visibly frustrated now, leaned back and said carefully, well, I guess we just see it differently. For me, laughter means more when it brings people together instead of dividing them. That line seemed to hit Jeff harder than any other. He blinked, his expression tight. The audience held its breath. Finally, Jeff stood abruptly, tugging at the mic clipped to his shirt. You know what, maybe I'm in the wrong place if I can't even have an honest conversation about comedy without getting lectured. The crowd gasped audibly. Kelly sat frozen for a beat, her smile plastered on as Jeff removed the mic, muttering, I'm done. Without another glance, he walked off stage, his puppets left behind on the couch. Kelly's jaw tightened, but she forced a bright laugh as she turned back to the stunned crowd. Well, that was unexpected. Guess I'll just be chatting with Peanut and Walter now. The audience laughed, though the sound was shaky, unsettled. Cameras rolled, capturing every second of the live walk-off, a moment destined to ignite headlines before the day was over. Backstage, the atmosphere was pure chaos. As Jeff disappeared behind the curtain, the hum of whispers turned into frantic chatter. Producers with clipboards pressed earpieces tighter, debating in urgent tones whether to cut the feed to commercial or let Kelly ride out the storm live. Cameramen froze, not sure whether to follow Jeff or stay locked on Kelly. Kelly, still on stage, sat upright, her smile plastered in place like porcelain. She had been in show business long enough to know, the cameras catch everything. The audience stared at her, stunned, waiting for her next move. She chuckled lightly, her voice slightly trembling but holding steady. Well, she said, clapping her hands once as if to reset the mood, that wasn't exactly on the cue cards, was it? But, hey, when you invite Jeff Dunham and his crew, you never know what's going to happen. The audience broke into nervous laughter, relieved she hadn't lost her cool. Kelly leaned over, and scooped up Walter, holding the puppet in her lap. So, Walter, do you wanna finish the interview? She teased, animating the puppet in a stiff, cranky voice. No thanks, lady, I already outstayed my welcome. That earned her a real laugh, and slowly the tension in the studio softened. The band improvised a jazzy riff, filling the space while producers counted down to commercial break. Kelly exhaled as the red recording light flicked off, her smile fading as she handed Walter back to a stagehand. Behind the curtain, Jeff paced like a caged animal. His road manager hovered close by, his voice low but urgent. Jeff, you just walked out, on live TV. Do you know how fast this is gonna spread? Jeff yanked his jacket off and slammed it over a chair. Let it spread, I don't care. I'm tired of being told what I can and can't joke about. I'm not apologizing for doing my job. But the optics, his manager started, but Jeff cut him off. Optics, please. People know me. My fans will back me. They know I've never been mean-spirited. This whole thing, he waved a hand toward the stage, was just another talk show lecture about what's appropriate. I've been doing this for decades. I'm not about to bend now. Meanwhile, in Kelly's dressing room after the taping wrapped, the mood was heavy. She sat with her producers, still shaken but trying to process what had unfolded. I wasn't trying to attack him, she insisted. I really wasn't. I just wanted an honest conversation. People talk about comedy all the time now. I thought it was worth addressing. One producer put a hand on her shoulder. You handled it well, Kel. You stayed calm. You didn't yell. But, it's going to blow up online. You should know that. Kelly nodded, pressing her lips together. She had been in the spotlight long enough to understand how fast narratives spun out of control. A harmless exchange could become a trending controversy within minutes. And this wasn't harmless, it was explosive. Sure enough, before the sun set that day, clips of Jeff's walk-off had already flooded Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. The hashtag Jeff walks out began trending. Comment sections turned into battlefields. Good for Jeff. Comedy shouldn't bow down to cancel culture. One tweet read, already racking up thousands of likes. Kelly asked a fair question. If he can't handle it, maybe he's the soft one, another countered. By evening, entertainment outlets plastered headlines across their sites. Jeff Dunham walks off Kelly Clarkson's show after heated on-air clash. Kelly Clarkson challenges Jeff Dunham over comedy responsibility, he storms out. Daytime drama. Dunham vs. Clarkson goes viral. Talk shows replayed the clip on a loop, commentators weighing in on whether Jeff had crossed a line, or whether Kelly had pushed too hard. It became more than a celebrity spat, it became a cultural flashpoint. Jeff, sitting in his hotel suite that night with his puppets still unpacked in their cases, scrolled through the storm of reactions. Half the comments emboldened him, reminding him that his fanbase was loyal. But the other half, the criticisms cut deeper than he admitted aloud. Words like, out of touch, and, defensive, followed him through every post. He turned off his phone and leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. For a man who made his fortune giving life to puppets, Jeff suddenly felt strangely voiceless. Kelly, on the other hand, sat at home with a cup of tea, scrolling quietly through her feed. She didn't relish the spotlight in this way. She hated drama. She never wanted to make her guests feel attacked. But something about Jeff's defensiveness lingered with her. Had she pushed him, or had she simply asked the question that everyone else was afraid to ask? The next morning, morning shows pounced. Panelists debated whether comedy had gone too far, or whether society had gone too soft. Jeff's face appeared on every chyron, often split-screened with Kelly's, their tense exchange playing silently behind the anchors. Even comedians began chiming in. Some supported Jeff, claiming comedians were under siege by political correctness. Others backed Kelly, arguing that comedy could evolve without losing its bite. The fallout grew so large that late-night hosts joked about it in their monologues. Jeff Dunham walked off Kelly Clarkson's show, one quipped, which is impressive, considering half his guests were made of wood. The studio audience roared. Jeff saw the joke replayed online and winced. The sting wasn't the punchline, it was that he had become the punchline. Privately, both Jeff and Kelly wrestled with their thoughts. Jeff wondered if his reaction had undermined his point. Was walking out strength, or weakness? Kelly wondered if she should issue a statement clarifying her intent. Her heart told her to let it go, but the storm only grew louder. 2 days later, Jeff broke his silence with a short post on his social media. Comedy is meant to make people laugh, not divide. I walked off because the conversation wasn't about laughter anymore, it was about politics. My fans know my heart. Kelly, too, addressed it briefly on her show's opening monologue the following week. Sometimes, things get heated. I respect Jeff's talent and what he's brought to the world of comedy. We didn't agree on everything, and that's okay. What matters is, we keep talking, and we keep listening. Her audience applauded warmly. The incident slowly began to fade from the news cycle, replaced by newer controversies. But for both Jeff and Kelly, the walk-off marked a turning point. Jeff became more aware of how the cultural climate viewed his comedy, even if he refused to admit it publicly. Kelly, meanwhile, realized her show had become more than just daytime fun, it had become a space where real cultural conversations could ignite. What lingered, more than the walk-off itself, was the conversation it started. Was comedy meant to comfort, to challenge, or to provoke? Could it be all three? And in an era when every word is recorded, clipped, and dissected, could comedians, and audiences, find a balance between laughter and responsibility? Neither Jeff nor Kelly offered a definitive answer. But in their clash, they had spotlighted the question in a way no scripted segment ever could. And so, while the cameras captured Jeff's exit and Kelly's stunned composure, what truly walked off that stage wasn't just a comedian or his puppets, it was the illusion that laughter, in today's world, could exist without deeper meaning.